Hey, it's Ben, and on this Ask Ben episode, I answer, why do you get knots in your back? So this question came from Melissa Ham, and she said, hey Ben, I've had an issue that I've been dealing with for years, and I was wondering if I could get your help. I think of myself as a pretty flexible person in terms of range of motion, but I get knots in my back, traps, and neck. I massage them out, but they always come back. Is there something I should be doing differently? Do you have any ideas of how to prevent these and get long-term relief? And I like this question a lot because it deals with some of the fundamental qualities of muscle. Shortness and tightness. So these things are very similar and interrelated, and a lot of people have issues with both, but sometimes people have issues with only one. And I wanted to use this example as someone who is probably tight but not necessarily short. So, for example, someone who is tight but not short, they have a nervous system response that is causing them to create tension or tightness in that muscle to make that muscle feel like it's short, but really it has all the length it needs, and sometimes that person has all the range of motion they need, but yet they perceive it as tight. So a really good example of this, if people can't relate to it, because a lot of people can't, is if you've ever been really sore and you feel like you don't have any range of motion and you feel super tight, that's exactly what's going on. Your nervous system is protecting yourself. You've damaged that muscle already. You've had micro tears in it. So you want to kind of create tension to stop yourself from going into those ranges so that you can heal yourself. That's essentially what's going on. Your body will do the same thing if it perceives a threat, regardless if there's damage there or not. So what very well might be happening with Melissa is that she might have tightness because her body is perceiving a certain position as threatening, and she wants to protect herself, even though she has all the range of motion that she needs. She might actually have more than she needs. She might be hypermobile, and that's what's causing her to be tight. So this is kind of a case-by-case basis. Realize I'm going to kind of break this down into avatars, just kind of explain what's the average person that's dealing with these things. So the avatar that's dealing with something that is shortness and not necessarily so much tightness is typically a male. Males are often short, but not necessarily as tight. So they have shorter muscles. They often have been having like a desk job. They spend a lot of time kind of in the same positions, and they've gotten into functional fitness kind of a later period in their like fitness career, just later in general. Maybe they're a master's athlete. That'd be a really good example of this, because that person has spent so much time in limited ranges that they've actually lost that range. Now their muscles have adapted that and now become shorter. Whereas sometimes we have someone who's short and tight, and that's like the worst of both worlds, where they're going to be just kind of a train wreck movement for the most part, and where they both perceive things as tight and then also will have shortness on top of that. But then, like I said, there's another demographic of person over on the far right who is just tight but not necessarily short, where their body's creating tension, but it's not because they don't have the range. It's because, again, that position is being perceived as threatening. So if we go back to the original question, why do people get knots in their back? Typically what happens here is because, like I said, they're perceiving that position as threatening. Likely, this person isn't in a good posture when they're at work. That's probably the most likely scenario. Say they sit at their desk all day, and they're kind of in this K position where, again, shoulders coming forward, heads out in front. We're focused on the screen all the time, and that's creating this demand for protection from the back. Essentially, it could be, and really it's prioritizing the spine in this case. So in order to protect your spine, which is, again, it's not a system that your body is going to prioritize in terms of safety, your body is going to create tension so that you can either, again, create safety or get in the right position. So likely if Melissa and other people that are dealing with knots get into a correct position where they're stabilizing from their main musculature and staying erect most of the time, they're not going to have to default to creating tightness through their nervous system to be able to support themselves. So really the solution here is a lifestyle fix. If you fix your posture and how you're moving day to day, you're probably also going to get rid of the knots. If you spend less time sitting, staring at screens, and you pay attention to your posture more often and your breathing and how that's connected and those two interplay on each other, that's going to really influence how your body and your nervous system is going to respond to certain positions, and then you won't create as much tightness, and that shows up as knots, right? So it's literally, a knot is just your body's kind of creating tension, right? And that could literally be because you've had like an impact contusion and you've created damage there, or it could just be because your body perceives it as a threatening position, so it creates tension to protect yourself. It's kind of two different ways to get to the same ends. So again, regardless if you're short, right, in terms of your muscle length is less, or you're just getting tightness because of your nervous system, either way, we attack these things the same way. We have to spend more time in better positions and demanding the right muscles to work all the time. And so either way here, whether we're short, whether we're tight, whether we're a combination of the two, we have to go back to moving correctly throughout our entire day, not just when we're in the gym in an isolation setting. So we have to think about the entire person. We have to think about the qualities and how they're moving, the shapes that they're making throughout their day. And then we can probably begin to address things like the knots in their back, as well as their breathing, as well as the anxiety and stress that they're probably having, a lot of other things. So I hope that answers the question. I tried to keep it short and concise, and I really just kind of wanted to distinguish between short and tight for a lot of people, because again, those aren't the same thing, and I think people get them confused a lot. So thanks for listening, and as always, head over to ZOARfitness.com for fitness articles, movement breakdowns, and one-on-one coaching for the sport of fitness. We'll see you next time.